Well, hello everybody, and welcome to my show. My name is Jason DeCosta, and this is Consistent Preterism. Let's wait for that seatbelt reminder to go off because I'm not buckled. I should be, but I'm not. Okay, we're good. So, hope everybody's doing well out there. I know I sure am. It's a beautiful day. I'm cruising around in the old 22 Chevy Silverado. And, I'm just going to record something here that I wanted to just put forth. And this came from my back and forths with Mike the Situation Karras. If you didn't listen to my previous audio that I shared last week, you should. It was a long one, couple hours, but I took a look at this clown who put out about an hour and a half long presentation on why he thinks he's refuting IO. I looked at his core arguments. I addressed each one of his core arguments, and then I looked at about 25-30% of his actual video, which was god-awful. And I just basically went through and kind of was putting everything back into its proper perspective and proper position, which is exhausting because, you're on this wild goose chase, but it has to be done sometimes. So I've done that with many people, and it wasn't to say that Michael Karras had good arguments against IO. It's just that when someone takes the time to put forth a teaching, it's kind of nice to be able to just go through and kind of listen to their words, pause it, offer my commentary on the fly, and just kind of rip into it a little bit to show how silly it really is. So that's what I did with old Mike the Situation Karras. And he came on, of course, and he had to defend his wackadoodle position a little bit, and we went back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. And I urge you, if you haven't read those exchanges, please go and read them, and you'll see that one person is actually offering scriptural logical arguments that honor the trajectory of the story and all the elements that we know are found in the foundational parts of the story, and the other person is sort of obfuscating and smoke screening and using different tactics to kind of, try to bury the obvious with endless babble and word vomit. And, quoting scholars and as if scholars are the final authority on the Bible, right? They can't even find their way out of a paper bag, yet he thinks they're the final authority somehow. And most of them aren't even Christian, right? That's the other thing too, is the scholars that he's quoting, a lot of them aren't even Christians. He seems to be big into myth vision, and he's listening to it as if it's some ultimate biblical authority, but most of those guys are not Christian, right? They're atheists. So it's just kind of ironic. And go ahead, buddy, you can go. Hang on one second. I'm just a nice man. I like to let people go, but anyways, so you can see those exchanges. You can see how I cornered him at every turn. I basically trapped him in a UFC armbar at every turn. And what he does, he's like a slimeball, sleazeball car salesman that just kind of, backtracks at every step and ebbs and flows like a morphing chameleon. And just, whatever you say, he has a unique way of kind of wiggling his way out of it with a bunch of irrelevant nonsense. And for people who are not familiar with these tactics and this nonsense, some of them may actually be deceived into thinking that he's offering a rebuttal. But obviously, if you have an eye for it, if you understand IO, and you understand these arguments that he's putting forth, you understand that they're all nonsense. They don't do anything to refute the truth of IO. So, go back, take a look at it, listen to the audio if you have the time, if you're driving, if you need something funny to listen to. It's good entertainment. And then obviously the commentary in the comments, take a look at. Keep in mind that a lot of times the comments don't all show up. There's that damn seatbelt again. The comments on my videos don't all show up. I don't know why. It's something to do with YouTube. They censor some. I think if some are too long, or I don't know, but maybe certain characters that are used in the comment maybe triggers that response from YouTube. But a lot of the comments are hidden. It's very bizarre. It happens a lot. And so I recommend, if you see there's 1 million comments on a video, but you're only actually seeing like 20 or 30 of them, what you need to do is go to the sort by sort by tab. You'll see it right at the top of the comments. And click that sort by tab. And in that sort by tab, you'll see an option for newest comments. And what you need to do is you have to hit that newest comments every time, and that will pull up the totality, every comment that's on that channel. If you don't hit the newest comments under the sort by tab, you're only going to see the select few comments that YouTube puts out there for the general public. For whatever reason, they hide at least, I'd say 20, 30, maybe even 40% of the comments on the channel most of the time. So it's very weird. But if you're not seeing all the comments, hit the newest comments tab under the sort by option, and you'll get all of them. And I would recommend doing that on every video, because I find that is the case on many. Anyway, I shared a post to the community post the other day about Michael Bradley's book, which is called Hidden in Plain Sight, The Bible as Israel Only. That is now available on Amazon in both Kindle and paperback formats. It's a great book. I haven't read it yet, but I've looked into it. I actually wrote the short foreword for it. There's other contributing authors that are very, very strong IO voices. And so I urge you, if you're looking for a good read, if you're the reading type, if you have time to sit and enjoy a book, this would be the one for you. So head to Amazon, check it out. I believe it's $9 on Kindle and $25 paperback. It's a substantial 500-600 page book, and it's chock full of topical essays on the different topics within IO, and addressing some of the arguments and so forth. So it's a great resource to have. But anyways, what I wanted to do today is take a look at one more look, and I promise this will be the last of it. After this, I'm casting them into the fiery pits of hell, never to be dealt with again. But I'm taking one more look at one of the core arguments of Mikey, the situation Karras, the wannabe Japhethite himself. And I just want to do this to show you how dishonest this guy really is. Now, one of his core arguments is that the 10 tribes of Israel were nowhere near where Paul and where the gospel mission was sent to in the Bible. Now, first of all, this story is not true. I can tell you that pretty much with certainty, okay? There's never been a time in history where you or I have seen anyone raised from the dead, anyone healed from being blind, anybody healed of certain diseases, on site. No one's ever spoken tongues. No one's ever walked on water. No one's ever turned water into wine. No one's ever parted the Red Sea. No one's ever turned rods into snakes. No one's ever struck a rock and water has come out of it. No one's ever called down manna from heaven, right? No one's ever ascended to heaven. No one's ever rose from the grave, and so on and so forth. So I can pretty much say, based on that fact alone, that this is a Harry Potter fairy tale type story, right? It's myth. And not a lot of people are going to like that. That's okay. That's my opinion, based on the sole fact that I've never seen anything take place like this, and nobody has either. So I'm going with that, and that's my opinion. So first of all, when Mikey has this argument, it's kind of laughable because, again, when you're dealing with a mythical story that its details are, so crazy like this, to even argue that there's a geographical error in the story is kind of laughable, right? Because no one's arguing for its authenticity or its accuracy in that regard. But secondly, he quotes Josephus that says there's a quote from Josephus that says the 10 tribes are currently beyond the Euphrates, and they're an immense number, far too great to number. And that was written in obviously the first century, which of course, in my opinion, shows that Josephus thought they were out there, at the very least. But he quotes this and he says, look, Josephus says they were beyond the Euphrates, and so they definitely were not where Paul went to preach. Now, I think that's kind of laughable, first and foremost, because just because Josephus said they were beyond the Euphrates doesn't necessarily mean that that's the only place they were. I think more than likely he was just trying to, symbolize how far spread they had become. But in no way does that mean that they weren't spread throughout the Roman Empire as well. I think that's crazy to assume, especially with all the passages that say that they would be spread in every nation under heaven, far and wide, yada, yada, yada. But yeah, so this is one of his core arguments. He says that he doesn't believe that the 10 tribes are in view because they weren't located in the geographical locations where the gospel went. So what I did is I told him, I said, listen, Mikey, I got a question for you that I need you to answer. Assuming that you're correct, right, I need to know, why are the 12 tribes in view when the final curtain rolls down in the end, in Revelation, right? Revelation 7, we see that the ones being sealed with the marking of the Holy Spirit, those are the 12 tribes, Revelation 7, right? We see in Revelation chapter 14, we see that... Sorry, I'm cutting across people here. We see in Revelation chapter 14, we see that the 12 tribes of Israel are standing by the throne singing praises to God at the final picture at the end when all is said and done. And it says that they were singing praises because these were the ones redeemed from the earth, and nobody but them could sing these same songs, right? So pretty clear statement, nobody but them, kind of cuts everybody out, but that's another story for another time. But again, my point is that in these final, pictures of the end scene, when all is said and done and the mission's complete and the coming has occurred and the resurrection's occurred and they're up in their promise, they've inherited the eternal city, the New Jerusalem, which, by the way, only had the 12 tribes' names written on it. Just another example of the 12 tribes being in view. So we have them in view, right? They're there. Somehow they are there, okay? And so my question to Mikey, since he doesn't think the 10 tribes were in view at all, was how did they get there, right? We know that Jesus said that in the age to come, the 12 apostles would sit on 12 thrones judging the 12 tribes of Israel. Well, there's the 12 tribes of Israel yet again being pictured by Jesus as being present in the age to come. So how did they get to the age to come if what Mikey is saying is true, that they were not in view and that they were in these geographical locations, yada, yada, yada. And so I asked him that, and I said, Mikey, explain it to me, right? Because you only have two parties in view here. You have the Jew and the Gentile, right? He was making the two into one. It's not like there's three parties, right? It's not like you have the Gentiles, the 10 northern tribes, and the Jews. No, he wasn't making three into one. He was making the two into one new man, the two sticks. So I asked Mikey to explain to us if, in fact, he's correct and the Gentiles that are being gathered in, the elect Gentiles who are receiving the marking of the Holy Spirit, which Paul said was only for the descendants of Abraham that were heirs according to promise, by the way. But explain to me how that is possible if, in fact, these Gentiles are not the children of Israel, right? Where did the 10 tribes come from? Because they're clearly in view at the end in this story. And, of course, he went silent for a while because, folks, you know that's a death blow, right? That is an absolute death blow. Because what it shows is that the Gentiles have to be the 10 northern tribes. Because the 10 northern tribes are clearly pictured as being saved and redeemed in the end. They're clearly part of the ones singing redemption because they were the ones redeemed from the earth. So clearly they're there, right? They received this promise. They received the inheritance. They were in the age to come at the very end. But yet Mikey says they were not in view during the redemption period itself. So I asked him, and of course he came back with the most pitiful response. And of course he sort of changed his tune because he realized what an armbar I had him in with that. And I think, I'm not going to read it because I'm driving, but his response was basically like, I don't deny that in the midst of them trying to find the Jews or the midst of them preaching to the Jews, they didn't, come across members of the other 10 tribes, right? Do you see how ridiculous this is? Right now he's sort of changing up his tune slightly, but not fully because he's a snake oil salesman and he knows he can't. But he changes his tune a little bit to say, I agree that maybe some of the 10 tribes were gathered in by way of the gospel going to the Jews, right? But of course he's just backtracking, he's sidestepping, he's dancing, he's, trying to smoke screen it away. All the tactics of a delusional dingbat. What I proved with that question is clearly that Io is correct. There's two groups in focus, Jew and Gentile. There's two groups in focus, circumcised and uncircumcised. There's no further groups. And at the very end of the story, we see all 12 tribes gathered in, redeemed, saved, singing praises because these were the ones redeemed for the earth. And so one would have to prove how those ones got there. If Mike's argument is correct and the Gentiles that are being saved, they're just regular Joe Blow pagans who never had any relationship with Yahweh, who never were under the curse of the law, yada, yada, yada. If that is true that they are Joe Blow pagans, then where did the 10 tribes come from? Big problem, folks. Add to that, we know that only the 12 tribes could sing of the redemption song because only they were redeemed from the earth. Revelation 14. Big problems for Mikey, the situation, Karis, folks. Folks, that's the ultimate death blow. It's the ultimate proof that Mikey doesn't know what he's doing, doesn't know what he's saying, that he's just playing cowboys and Indians. And I would ask Mikey, I would say, Mike, give us a paragraph of how you would preach the gospel. Now, of course, we know he doesn't preach any gospel. He doesn't go seek the lost. He doesn't do any of that, right? He's basically, he doesn't have to do that because of his new breed of Christianity. He doesn't have to do that stuff. That's not his responsibility. That was all done. But I would ask Mike, how would he preach the gospel to somebody today based on his warped interpretation and invented ideas? What would be the 4 sentences, the single paragraph that he would preach to someone today? What would he say? What would be the focus? I would love to hear that so we could all get a good chuckle. But of course, we know he doesn't preach the gospel, folks. I mean, that's not a surprise. We know he likes to argue on Facebook and YouTube and, battle with IOers. That's his passion. And when he gets to those pearly gates, the God of Israel is going to tell him, dude, get the hell out of here. You're not one of mine. And he's going to say, well done, my good and faithful situation lookalike servant. You argued with IOers very well throughout all your days, and I'm very pleased with you. Anyways, folks, I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it really painted the picture of just how delusional and how stupid these arguments are from Mikey, the Japhethite, Karis. And he really has no arguments, folks. We obliterated him. And that's all there is to it. Hope you all have a great day, everybody. Give it a like a Rooski. If not, take a hike a Rooski. And we'll catch you on that next one. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.